As a survivor, you really just want to run this. Had you ran this tighter, maybe you wouldn't have got hit, but see, you ran it really wide and she didn't, and there she goes for the swing. So she'll pick you up, good D-strike value. The Sabo, body block, all that, it was very premature. And the no-ed, there's the no-ed. Oi, 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 YouTube. Welcome back to another video here on the channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Please get your water, unclench your jaw, relax. We're going to do some gameplay reviewing today. We're going to be taking a look at a viewer submission. If you guys want to submit these, hop into our Discord. It is in the links down in the description. And you obviously, you can hop in. Just give us survivor, killer, whatever you'd like. I'll take a look at which ones I think I can give the most input on, and we'll go from there. We are looking at a Meg Thomas on Midwich against, it sounds like a nurse, and we'll kind of see how this sort of goes here. My opinion, I think hiding from a nurse is acceptable. I think that generally speaking, if a killer finds you first, it's not a big deal. It's a good advantage to you know, just learn how to chase better or be chased. But if the killer's nurse chases nurse, a good nurse is really scary. So if it's a nurse chase, okay, I'll give you a leeway for like not wanting to be chased first. That's not a big deal. The minute she blinked away, you immediately kind of decided, okay, I need to hop on a gen. I need to go find something. This is good. Now, this is strange. I'm not exactly sure what caused you to sort of hop off or like be nervous here. You could see that somebody took damage. You always want to be kind of looking at this. If somebody took damage, they are likely in chase. But on top of that, the obsession tentacles, when those move, that means that that person is being chased by the killer. So that's good info for you. And you did hop onto the gen, so that's very good. And we're gonna fast forward this a little bit. All right, we hear the nurse. It looks like she's lost her target because the obsession tentacles aren't moving, and then you blew the skill check. Let's see. She might pop up. That's good. So this is interesting. Okay. So nurse typically moves, I think, at like 96.5% movement speed. She's just slower than a survivor. Survivor's at 100%. So it's going to be really hard to give you advice on this if she doesn't actually blink. Some quick tips I could see, though, is we're not hugging things necessarily as tight as we could be. You're leaving quite a bit of space. Here's Meg, and then there's all this space between you and this particular wall. Now, she whiffed, so in this case, like, running wide would make sense, because if she runs tight, then you might, you know, get hit. But you want to be sure that typically when you're running, you're trying to stay as tight to objects as possible. Against any other normal killer, if you are running pretty wide, that killer's going to catch up a lot faster than they ordinarily would. So be sure that that's kind of what you're up to. Now, what I will say is you don't want to run things sort of this way, right? So if you have this and like this, right? And then you have, as a survivor, you really just want to run this, like as much as you can, because the minute as a survivor you hop over here, faster killers, and this might just be because it's a nurse, but I have a feeling this might just be something that we are doing, but faster killers will 100% stand here and they'll mind game you, or they'll bloodlust you until they can get the hit, because this is not safe. Like, this part of the loop is not safe at all. So typically when you're running an obstacle that kind of looks like this, whether it's on like Azarov, McMillan, or something like that, you just want to loop this, run it as close as you can to the obstacle, throw the pallet, and then if they continue to play the loop, after you've thrown the pallet, so say you throw the pallet down, right? If they continue to play the loop and they're not going to break it, well, then you can like use the entirety of the obstacle, right? But this area is unsafe, so don't really play around that. That's a bad idea. If this was like a Doc or a Michael or something like that, 100% you'd go down. All right, we are seeing, again, we're running things kind of wide. So a big piece of advice, just general advice that you could work on all of the time, is just hug stuff. Just sticks to stuff as tightly as you can. She, in theory, unless she blinks, she will never catch you, unless you completely mess this up. So this is why nurse needs to blink. And that's actually, right there was a perfect example of not running this tighter. Had you ran this tighter, maybe you wouldn't have got hit, but you ran really wide, and then she hugged the wall, and that's how she was able to catch up. And I hope that we can slow that down here for just a second. We can kind of see that here. It's around 0.25 here. We'll turn that audio off. You see, you ran it really wide and she didn't, and there she goes for the swing. Because when killers lunge, they all end up lunging at the exact same speed. So she gets a speed boost when she lunges, and that allowed her to connect over that distance that you gave her. So one just big takeaway is just always hugging things tighter. Now you do have dead hard. You can extend this a lot longer. See, now you were doing pretty good there, hugging things tight. You're still using the unsafe side. So let's kind of push this forward. Okay. Let's keep going forward here. We're still doing it. I mean, this is a good loop. You're doing a good job. See, yeah, if you'd run that tighter, if you weren't running that bad side, you wouldn't have even needed dead hard. It's good that you used it, you know, getting that reflex momentum and movement. But if you run the long side, you won't need it. Now, she at this point is bloodlusting. So, yeah, she's getting faster off bloodlust. She's probably bloodlust tier 3 at that point. Okay. Let's see where she goes, where you go. It's important to look behind you against Nurse so you know where she's blinking, if she's blinking at all. Yeah. So if you saw that, and I heard her start blinking, because this is a newer Nurse, there could have been a few things you could have done when you heard her start blinking. You could have like double back on her. Because you are on the top floor of Midwich, if she tried to shorten her blink, she would actually blink through the bottom, or she would blink through the floor and go to the bottom floor more than likely. So doubling back on her actually would have been really, really smart here, I think, because I think she's newer. It would have thrown her off. That's a really hard kind of skill to get, and it really depends on the ability of the killer themselves. So, you know, kind of happens, is what it is. But just something to keep in mind. If you're on the second story of Gideon, RCPD, Midwich, if you run at a Nurse, they're likely to shorten their blink by looking down. And if they look down, they are 100% going to blink to the floor below them. All right, we got a good unhook from our teammate here. Now, she unhooked when it was pretty safe to do so. She sandbagged a little on accident. She was trying to get behind you. She didn't run it wide enough. Looks like the Nurse is going to try to tunnel. So in a lot of cases, what I would have done here, if you realize you go the wrong way, like, so you still have D-strike. This is a really, 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 really situational moment. But if you realize that you have D-strike and you ran the wrong way, or there's no pallets or something like that, hop in the locker. Right? So you still have D-strike up. You went this way. You go, ah, shit, there's nothing here. Which it's just a map knowledge thing. You'll just get map knowledge the more that you play, but remember to try to learn the maps as well. Like, remember, try to integrate that stuff. But there's lockers here. If you have D-strike, right, which you do, right? Now, I'm not saying use D-strike aggressively. What I am saying is if you're in a bad situation, you see the red stain here, double back, hop in that locker. If you hop in the locker, it forces her to pick you up, and you are forced to use your D-strike. Whereas here, she downs you and she slugs you potentially. That's a rough day. Now, it doesn't look like she's going to slug you, but smarter killers will slug you, and that's bad. So she pick you up. Good D-strike value. Unfortunately, you did use dead hard. You are exhausted. Good looking behind you. Good job. I think you're trying to be unpredictable, which with Nurse is exactly what you want. As unpredictable as possible. She's starting her blink. So you got very, very lucky here that she just didn't swing, but that was, I would work on that. I would work on learning Nurses, which I imagine you don't play against that many of them because not many people play them. So okay, so at this point, I like that you're just willing to probably get back on a gen. You are walking, so that's pretty smart. You don't want to be loud. Right now, actually running sandals in DBD, sandals are louder than like regular shoes. So let's see how this goes. We're repairing. I think you... Oh, she used Surge. She, wait, had Surge. Okay, so got some regression there. Claudette wants to heal you. Okay. So this isn't bad. I mean, you don't have D-strike anymore. You definitely need to be healed against a Nurse. She is camping. Yeah, she's just straight up camping him. What she's doing is waiting for an unhook. See, okay, so this is like a huge mistake. I see what you're trying to do. Bad idea. When you see somebody camping, especially at 2 gens, just get the gens done. You know somebody over here is on a gen, and you know that like you're on a gen here. Just stay on the gen. Because as a Nurse, what's likely to happen is you go in for the unhook, she blinks, and she grabs you, or something worse. And this is just a good thing to have. Like, I think a lot of us go like, oh, I can save them. I got the skills. I can maybe make something happen. But you don't even have borrowed time, right? So if you do unhook, that person just goes down anyway. So this ain't, you're not the one, you know what I mean? Not in this scenario. And it doesn't make sense to go for it either, right? I would prefer, like, if I were on the hook, I would prefer my team got a 3-man escape and I died on first hook than, like, 3 people go down because this nurse caught us off guard. Okay. Spooky. She maybe isn't even using headphones. Let's see what happens. This could go all right. The Claudette's backing you up. I think you tried to body block. Okay. The Claudette wants to sabo. Okay, why are you here? Okay, so this doesn't make sense. So the Claudette tried to sabo. She got knocked off the hook though. And this is what I'm saying, like, you didn't have BT, so now the David's just down. So that's, you know, effectively, like, that's just, it's hard because Nurse can blink right back. But David, because you didn't have BT, kind of has to pay for it. You know what I mean? She tried to sabo, which is interesting. So she gets away. I'm not sure why you're still here. You can't sabotage. I don't know if you're trying to body block for the Claudette or that could work. That kind of makes some sense to body block for the Claudette. But like Claudette also got like a pretty decent speed boost to get away. And she decided to stay. So that, I don't know. So here's the thing about sabotage. Sabotaging this one particular hook doesn't really change a lot of the game because she's not carrying David. There's no wiggle progress, right? For people, if somebody's going to sabo, the killer kind of needs to have already picked up and traveled at some distance, right? And then a sneaky sabo means like, oh, now I got to drop the survivor because if I go all the way up the stairs and back around, then he'll wiggle free, right? She hasn't picked him up yet. There's no risk for her. So say Claudette did get the sabotage here. All Nurse has to do is wait it out. The hook will come back and then she just puts David on it. Not a big deal. So in this case, the minute I saw Claudette sabo, I probably would have just bailed. Right? I would have just, even if there's a 2-man slug, right now you guys are in a position for a 3-man slug, and it's not looking great. I'm nervous for you. So in this case, like, I would have body blocked. Okay. So paying attention here would have been good. So seeing her coming back towards you, I would have 100% just started running up the stairs, try to get out, try to loop, try like something. She's coming back right now. You cannot get that whole heal. No dead hard, nothing. So the Claudette can't sabo this. She's going to get slugged or downed. Yeah, is this going to be like a 2-man slug, 1 hook? Wow. Yeah. So this is the thing. If the Nurse were trying to hook the David and you and Claudette body blocked and both took 2 hits and the David wiggled, that's a different scenario. It's a much harder scenario. But she hadn't even picked up the David. So for both of you to the sabo, body block, all that, it was very premature. And in my opinion, it's up to you to be the smarter player and be like, okay, this Claudette's not going to get the sabo. I got to get out of here before this turns into a very sour situation. And because now the David's there like, okay, I'm on second hook. I'm out of here. This match went south, right? So effectively, the sort of greed of that play kind of caused the David to die, if you will. And that greed came from everybody. It wasn't just you. It was kind of everybody, you know, a coalescence of poor decisions. And very fortunate that the Claudette got off the hook. Or got off what is happening? Oh, see, and the tap messed up too. This is where like your decision-making skills as a survivor, like you have to kind of just assume that like you have to play better than everybody, right? So while in this scenario, and this is a nurse, so she might have nurse's call. I'm worried here. But in this scenario, you sort of have to assume that like you have to kind of carry the weight of the team on your shoulders, right? You see the Claudette going for a sabo she doesn't need to go for. You got to be like, okay, I got to leave because I need to prevent a worse situation from happening. Everything's like hindsight's 2020, right? We could always look back and be like, oh, well, of course that didn't work out. But you kind of have to work on honing those judgment calls in the moment and just like rolling with it. It sucks that the David's down. The biggest thing here for your team is that the David is dead at 1 gen. So you guys can still like get a 2-man out or something like that. I'm excited to see how that kind of goes. Okay. So we don't really know where the nurse is. Again, we're not really looking behind us either. You should definitely, when there's maps with long hallways, you should be looking behind you. Like, oh, is the killer behind me? No, but the terror radius is very, very close. Okay, are they above me? Are they in the courtyard? So just keep that in mind. You always need to be looking at like, okay, where's the killer coming from? Can I lay eyes on them? That is like pretty fundamental to playing Survivor, is just always, always, always having your eyes open on what could be where. And it's obvious you could do it. I think there are moments where you're not thinking about whether you should do it or not. The lesson is always do it. Always be looking. You never know. Okay, so when you walk up on a gen, remember to look at the pistons. All 4 pistons are firing. The lights are on. If you look up, yep, the lights are on. There you go. Okay, we don't know where the nurse is. She could be below you. Slowing down is good. You don't want her to hear you. I think you heard her hit tap, and you look behind you, which is good. Smart. There you go. You hear a gen? All right, we're on a gen. Let's see how this goes. This tap's giving her the juice, I think. He's still going. He's still going. Okay. The nurse is now on Claudette. You should be able to get this gen done. Claudette's down. Oh, she hopped in a locker. But at least you'll get this gen done. Okay. So let's see how our decision making is post. Now, depending on like how well you play and how well other killers play, I would always be prepped for a no-ed at the end game. So in the end game, unless you're on death hook, right, I would say really don't worry about healing too much. And instead, it looks like David's on no-ed. Looks like he found it. So this is good. But just as a tip, yeah, always be worried about no-ed for a while. Oh, just random bones. I think he has inner strength. I think he popped the bones for inner strength. Always be a little worried about no-ed. So in this case, like healing him doesn't really make a ton of sense. It's very, very like back and forth. So be very careful healing in the sort of end-to-end game. Now, here's the biggest concern I have. There's not a door that's ready. So once you unhook the Claudette, what do you think's going to happen, right? Like okay, I unhooked the Claudette, but where do we go? Oh, the nurse won't be able to find us. She will. So in this case, yes, she is definitely on hook, right? But 30 seconds of her first stage is gone, which means she still has about 130 seconds left, really, before she's dead, right? You don't have borrow time. So the best thing you could do is get to the door, open it first, and then come back. Let's see how this plays out, though. I could be wrong. Yep, she saw you. Yep. See, there's no door. Because there's no door open, this Claudette, normally the Claudette, I think at this point would have been able to get out. Very lucky she had adrenaline. But don't rely on luck. Don't rely on the killer or survivors to always have adrenaline. If the door was open, you guys could bail. Tap could probably get out. And the no-ed. There's the no-ed. Let's see if the rest of the team is going to look for no-ed here. The 2 options with no-ed are you find the totem or you get out, right? If you spend a lot of time... Ooh, she dropping? Oh, she's going to drop. Okay. So Tap playing a pallet. The good news is this nurse is very, like... Okay, so he misplayed heavily. He just needed to run. Like, it would have been way better for him to run. And then maybe you could have wiggled off when she picked you up. Now you're in a bad spot. You're both in a bad spot. Let's see how this goes. I have a feeling he's going to go down. She'll bloodlust him to death, I think. Unless he somehow picks you up, which I do not predict is going to happen. Yeah, this Tap is... Oof. Okay, Claudette's rolling up. Claudette has not found the bones. Is this going to be four people dead? I don't even blame the no-ed here. No-ed's pretty easy to get around. In this case, it could have like just given her like 1 additional kill had they played it out a little bit better. On Nurse, it's definitely a little bit more lethal than typical. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, they need to let off of you there. You do have Dead Hard. Against no-ed, it's much better to be injured and have Dead Hard than to, like, not. You know what I mean? And that goes for, like, exposed Michael Myers and things like that. We're so very lucky that Tap got this door ready. Oh, my God. Or was it Claudette? Claudette maybe got the door ready. Giga Brain. Except the sandbag. The sandbag. And does Claudette make it out? We don't know. We don't know. So there's a lot to kind of talk about in that. I think most of what was going on was, like, pretty good, right? I think most of what was happening was pretty good. I think from what I could see, I think there's a few decision-making things to always kind of be aware of, right? A lot of people 99 doors and things like that. Opening a door before getting that unhook is pretty important if you have the time to do it. Remember to break down the final health bar of a survivor on a hook and be like, okay, there's half is 60 seconds. So there's 2 minutes total, right? Do I have time to open a door? Opening a door is like, what, 20 seconds, right? So I could get that done, right? So doing that, some of that mental math, remembering that that's a thing. The big thing I really want you to worry about in particular, you're looking behind you. Do that more. Do that all the time. All the time. Just keep practicing that. And then learn to run things tighter. Run closer to objects as you're looping around them. And don't run the short side of objects. That seems like you're like varying it up, so you might feel like that's a skillful play. Unless the pallet's down, it just gives a lot of killers a lot of room to give you an easy hit like the nurse did in your first chase. That's the big thing I think that you might want to focus on. Aside from that, just like I said, decision making. Who are you body blocking for? Does the body block matter? Are you in a position to accidentally give the killer like 3 slugs or 2 slugs and a hook? Think about those situations, and you have to be the smarter survivor, especially if you're solo queuing. You have to know, like, okay, I got to get out of this situation because it could go very, 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 very south, right? Especially against nurses, Myers, Onis, right? A lot of those killers that can insta-down, Bubba, things like that, okay? So I think you did a lot of good here. Hopefully there is a lot for you to understand and digest. Thank you for submitting this Shadows TV, guys. Go give Shadows some love. I will plug them in the description down below. Do you guys have submissions for us to review? Of course you do. Well, hit that subscribe button. Submit your videos into the Discord, and they might make them up on the YouTube channel. Otherwise, you guys can discuss tactics with each other in the Discord. Until then, guys, thank you for being here, and I'll be praying to the entity to see you in the next video.